Okay, we're just about to sort out a gospel road trip. We're thinking about going to the Isle of Wight and taking the team over there, and a boot full of tracts and CDs and all kinds of Christian literature, and distribute that everywhere we go, and hopefully make some contact with the people there and even with the churches, and try and on perhaps say Tuesday, Wednesday or Thursday go to the Bible studies. So pray for us as we go round, and hopefully we'll distribute a good number of tracts, and it'd be lovely to see a soul saved and somebody make contact from the Isle of Wight. So I haven't been there since I was a child. I'm guessing I was 8, 9, something like that. I remember bringing back from the Isle of Wight one of those things you turn up with the snow comes down, you know, one of those little things. Yeah, it had the Isle of Wight. I think it had a lighthouse in it, and so I'll go and try and find that again. I think my first one broke. And so, so we're looking forward to going there. So pray for us. This morning, I want to hit us with a question. What do most people, Mr. Joe Average, that's us, isn't it? Mr. Joe Average. What do most people have to go through in life? What do you and I have in common? We're in the same boat with me, you and I, you and me. And we struggle through life at times. We all go through the same kind of things. And so we've just had a little brainstorming session this morning. And just things we have to go through. So we're competing with the grass cutter outside, just to say. We either have a Jack Russell running around, but thank the Lord that family's moving. No. And now we've got the grass cutter outside. He's just parked outside the church with his engine on, roaring away there, lights and everything. Fantastic, isn't it? Just when you're about to start preaching. Always happens. Well, he's a Mr. Joe Average as well. What's he going through? We've all gone through the same things, you know. What's he do and what do we do? The same things. So, we all have to eat to live. That's number one. We all have to eat to live. And you think about that, you know, in these third world countries, they have to eat to live as well. There's a lot of starvation over there. And if they don't eat, they die, the same as you and I. And it's horrific, you know, that the world is so unbalanced that we have enough food over here. And we could feed the world, you know, all the countries like, you know, America and Europe and that, we produce enough, you know, in Australia and places like this. We produce enough food that we could feed the world. But people just don't care. And it's very, very sad. But we all have to eat to live, you and I. We all have to go down to our shops, buy the food, you know, and again, things that we don't think of. You think of the distribution processes and all the production processes of getting that food onto your table. It is quite incredible. You know, I've worked in the transport industry and see how transport works overnight, and hauliers and hubs and things like that. It's an incredible engineering feat, really, to see all these things in operation and all the cogs in operation, and just to deliver your tin of beans. It's amazing. So we have to eat to live, you and I. We all have to pay our bills, and they're saying at the moment that money is tighter here than it's ever been before for years and years and years, and people are struggling today. Inflation and the bills and the costs of living has increased rapidly recently, and trying to make the ends meet, as they say, is very difficult for a lot of people today. But we will have to pay our bills. Therefore, obviously, we have to go to work and try and earn enough to pay the bills. And it's very difficult at times. I'm sure you've all gone through it, where you really find it hard to actually pay that bill. Something breaks down, always at the wrong time. You know, there's no good time, I know. It's always at the wrong time, it seems. Where you're just making it over the hill. You're just about to get there. You think, yeah, I'll be okay for next month. Then bang, something goes. You know, something goes on the car or the washing machine or your fridge or something like that. Was it a couple of weeks ago? And you know, I say we panic or you get anxious. I'm not very good with my hands, technical stuff or you know, DIY stuff. And then suddenly, you know, we open the fridge and we opened the fridge, and then there was all sparks everywhere. You know, something. And I thought, oh no, here we go again. And then I'm thinking, get on to the landlord, the fridge is broken, it's his house, etc. And then we realised it was just a bulb that had gone. I told you I wasn't technical. So, but we got that sorted. Not that was any interest to any of you, but... Okay, what else do we all go through? We all need to be loved and cared for, yeah? We all need to be loved and cared for. You like to be loved, and I like to be loved. We need it. And we need to give love as well. And some of us aren't very good at that. And even sort of like old-fashioned people, the old school, the old days, the older generation, perhaps weren't as hands-on, if you understand what I mean, as loving as perhaps we are today. There was decorum, and people weren't sort of overly showy, if you understand what I mean. I know people, even in my own family, who don't really... You know that they love each other, but they don't really show it a lot. It tends to be the older generations that are like that. And that happens even with your children, sadly to say, a lot of times. We all need to be loved, and you need to give your love. You need to show your love to people. When was the last time you told your wife or your husband or your friends or your family that you loved them? When was the last time you told your mother that you loved her? Or your dad that you loved her? Him. You loved him. Although today, I suppose. You ought to show your love more. Go home to your wife, your husband, today. They should be with you at church, but if they're not, go home, tell them that you love them. And your children, show your love. The Lord loves us. He gave everything. We ought to love one another. We always quote John 3:16. Look at 1 John 3:16. 1 John. Those 3:16s are very powerful verses, poignant. 1 John 3:16. Hereby perceive we the love of God, because he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brethren. Yeah? We ought to lay down our lives for the brethren. Show your love to other people. What kind of person are you? Are you a loving Christian? We've said we have to work. We all seek for happiness. We all want to be happy. We all seek. The whole human race seeks a little bit of happiness in their lives. Daily, weekly. We just want to be happy. We don't want to be upset or sad or despondent. We want to be happy. So we seek for those kind of things that bring us happiness. That's why people, go on shopping sprees and things like that, because they buy something that makes them happy. That ornament, that ugly ornament that you bring into your house, that you put on the side, that you think looks, like Picasso or Michelangelo or something. This art thing. You bring it in, and then everybody in the house thinks, what have you bought that for? But it makes you happy. You see it, it makes you happy. Then for the rest of your life you've got to dust the thing. But it makes you happy. We all seek for happiness. And again, the problem is we seek in all the wrong places. Oftentimes. Rather than the joy of the Lord, we seek the happiness of things, possessions. We all want good health. Yes, we do. We all want good health. Yet, a lot of people struggle with their health. For every disease that you cure, another 10 or 20 or 100, suddenly spring up. And, we don't live a lot longer. People say we do, but, not a lot longer. And a lot of people live in bad health today. We're pouring into our bodies all these chemicals and deodorants and processed food. We're pumping all different things into our bodies. No wonder our bodies are breaking down. Children growing up living on Coca-Cola and all these fizzy drinks, as we did, and then you start seeing that you've got problems with your bones and that, And even the goodness out of the food they talk about, we're not getting perhaps the goodness we once did. I'm not a dietitian at all, I don't know, but, there's that many problems with so many different, areas of life that you think there has to be something that you're pumping into your body that's doing something. That's why it's good to have a healthy diet, I'm sure. Eat fruit, eat your vegetable, eat your greens. But we all seek for happiness. We all want good health. Again, these are just random, not in order. We want to do what we want to do. That's the majority of the human race. We want to do what we want to do. We don't want anybody telling us what we want to do. We don't want to obey by this authority. We don't like being told what to do. We want to do what we want to do. See, it's everything but God. That's what the world wants. Give me all the things. We want the peace, but we don't want the Prince of Peace. We want the kingdom, but we don't want the king. And we want to do, there's a rebellion among people, as there has always been, but especially today. We want to do what we want to do. We don't want to be told by you. We don't want your Bible. We don't want to be told that we've got to do this. People are so anti-God, it's amazing. It was on the internet, I was watching something of a Christian speaker, quite a famous one. And he's on the streets there, and the banter he's having with the crowd. Then this woman just gets up and she goes on the microphone and she is just laying into this preacher. Don't you dare tell me what to do. Why don't you take your coat off and go and give it to a homeless? All the same old stuff. And she was ripping into him. But that's the spirit of the age. Total rebellion. We all will experience death unless the rapture happens. We will all go through that experience. That's incredible. That would be worth doing a sermon on and talking about coming to the end of your life. I know we've talked about old age a few times now, but we all will experience death. Perhaps most of us, if not all of us, will experience or have experienced bereavement, where somebody has died close to us. And it's very sad, People cling on to life. They want to live. They'll do anything to live. People that don't believe in God will still cling on to life. They want to live. If they could give all their money away just to have those few extra years, they'd do it. People are doing everything they can to live. And I realise with suicide, I've always said this, suicide is like the coward's way out. People just end their lives just to get out of it, rather than face things and go through it. But I understand there are always exceptions to the rule. But I can only speak with people I know, and I know men who are real hard, mouthy men who come across like this, and they make out, I'm not bothered when I die, and all this kind of stuff. They make out they're really hard, and then they'll go and buy low cholesterol butter, and then they'll get a cycle, one of those exercise bikes, in their 70s and 80s. Trying to cling on to those last few moments of life. I don't care, I'm an atheist and I believe what I believe, and when you're dead, you're dead, and I'm not bothered, I'm ready to go. Then they go shopping, they get their low cholesterol butter and all the other bits and pieces they chuck in the thing, trying to keep their body alive. It's a funny old thing, trying to be somebody they're not. Mouths on sticks, even the older folk, unfortunately. But we're going to have to go through that, and that's going to be a tough time, isn't it? And especially if it's people that you know and close to. But to think that one day you're going to die, and we'll come to this a little bit later, but whether you actually believe in life after death, I wonder what the atheist really does think. When Christopher Hitchens died, the outspoken atheist, just a puppet for atheism, I wonder what he really thought when he was dying. His brother's a Christian. How mad is that? His brother's a Christian and he was an atheist. They debated together. And of course the atheist is much more eloquent and perhaps sharper. And they see the Christian as not so bright. But that Christian has got eternal life. And I wonder where Christopher Hitchens is now. We all experience going through school, growing up, going through those years, when you're a young person. I've just found a guy, again, just looking at different things. And I've just researched a little bit and then come up with a guy who was in my year at school. I haven't made contact with him or anything, and he's an author. It's very strange, He's done some good work, I believe. No, I'm joking. And I knew him when he was 9. I remember him when he was 9 years old. And now he's 42, the same age as myself. And, you see a picture, and just watching him, you can see the mannerisms. I can tell the mannerisms of when he was in a kid. I remember what he was like. I remember when I went round to his house, and in his bedroom, he was playing with his toys. I remember that. And now he's 42. He's made a success. He's been to university, got a BA, etc. He's written all these different books, done TV shows and things. And it's funny, we were in the same class. I went round to his house and had tea. They were the days. Isn't it funny though when you find somebody that you haven't seen for all those years, 30 odd years? Incredible. So going through school, we have to go through all that, and then growing up, the teenage years, then finding jobs and going for interviews, all these things. You and I have done that. We go through that, still going through that for a lot of us. We're in the same boat. This is life. Another thing we will all face at specific times in our lives is we will all face rejection. Being rejected. What it's like to be rejected. 2 Timothy 4. We'll hit the scripture in a bit. I'm just giving you a couple of things here. 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 10. For Demas hath forsaken me, having loved this present world. He'd forsaken him, he'd rejected him, Paul. He loved this present world. He'd left Paul. Paul had to go through that rejection. There's loads of different examples. That's just one. But to face that rejection, nobody faced rejection more than the Lord, of course. But to face rejection, we all will experience guilt in our lives and regrets. We've all done bad stuff. We've all got involved in things we shouldn't have done and said things we shouldn't have done. And we will have to deal with that. We do have to deal with that, and we'll continue to do that up until the rapture, or until the day of our death. And then there's also disappointment. We all get disappointed. You get disappointed in people. You get disappointed with your performance, the way you are, what you've achieved or haven't achieved. You fail at things. We have to go through that. Those experiences. It's a horrible feeling, knowing that you're waiting and you're hoping to succeed in something, and you just don't do it, and you have to fail. You fail at it, and maybe you're just not good enough to do it. And we have to experience that, realizing that we're just not good enough. Again, wouldn't that be an awful thing? To have your salvation based upon works or based upon attaining something, and you're just not good enough. I thank God that salvation is not anything to do with works. For by grace are you saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It's a gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. Ephesians 2, 8 and 9. What great verses they are. We don't have to worry about thinking, have I attained it? Because you've done nothing to achieve or obtain your salvation. The Lord has done it all. So we have to go through disappointment and fear and anxieties. We all suffer with that, in our lives. Your fears that nobody else knows that you go through, and your anxieties that you hide, or you try to hide, even from your wife or husband, friends, whatever. What you go through, you personally. You're struggling through certain things in your life. You have that fear. It's a horrible thing. It makes you uneasy. You can't relax. And people, unfortunately, some people, because of their lifestyles, because of the way they live, they are constantly living in that. Never relaxed. I know a guy, he's a customer of ours, and he gets about 4 hours of sleep a night. And he cannot sleep. He just fears. He's got anxieties in his life. He's living on the edge. He bites his fingernails all the way down. He's one of those. He can't. He struggled. I think he struggles so much with certain things in life. Maybe it's the choices he's made that's put him in that predicament, that he just has no peace. And then you think of all that pressure that you're putting on your body and all that stress you're going through in your mind and what's on your heart. You wonder why people have heart attacks. A lot of this time it's through stress and pressure because of choices that you've made that have been the wrong choices. And you're in the situation you're in because of them. We all have to experience sickness. Again, it's something that you just can't get away from, Whether your child brings something home from school and you pick it up, measles, mumps, You know, all these things that you have to go through. Remember that? What is it? Chicken pox, pots, is it? And all these things you have to go through. And obviously, it's a lot harder for adults when they go through it the second time, I've heard. But we all have to go through sickness. You eat something that's not right, and then you knocks you out 3 days on your back and things. You know, you've all had time off work, I'm sure. You always get the person who, well, I've never had a day off work, for 30 odd years, and the next week they have a day off work. It's open your mouth too soon. But you know what it's like to experience sickness. We all have to go through it. Trying to stay alive, man. Go through sickness. We'll go through success and failure. You know what it's like to succeed in things. You get that job. You pass that test. You pass that exam. You know, the feeling of elation when you see the thing come through and you finally think, I've put all that effort in, all that work, and then you open it up. You're a bit nervous about it. Remember with your exam results, you open it up and you're thinking, haven't I? She knew she had. And, no, I'm joking. And you open it up and, yes, I've passed. Fantastic, you really look at. I remember my GCSEs and my O-levels. We were still doing O-levels at the time. And, it comes through. You're nervous, And you think you're going to get some. You think, well, I've put the effort in, perhaps not as much as I could have done. I wasn't very academic. And so you open it, yeah? You open it and and I'm thinking, I've told my dad I'm going to get between about 5 and 7. And we did a deal that if I got 5 or 7, that I would get a set of golf clubs. And I said, look, Dad, this is it, man. I'll tell you, I've got 5, and I really need these golf clubs for Saturday because I've got this competition coming up, And this is going back in the day. And so the paper comes, he's at work, and then the little brown paper comes, the exam results, you open it up. Look at the first one, art. Listen, I would have sailed art. I thought this is it. My drawing. I was sitting next to my mate then. We were looking at each other's drawing. In the art exam, and we were talking about it after. I've got to sail to this. This is the one. So see the first result, D. Couldn't believe it for art. I thought I was good at art. I was rubbish, being honest with you, but I thought I was good. He who thinketh himself to be something when he is nothing deceiveth himself. Galatians 6:3. And so I couldn't believe it. So that was the first one. What are the rest going to be like? Even worse. I had D's and E's. One I'd never... What's a U? And I finished up with 1. That was a C. That was my top grade at school. My top grade at school. Then you have to go and get a job, don't you? But that wasn't the hard part. The hard part was explaining to my dad. Because he bought me the golf clubs, for the game on Saturday. And that's when it was at that time I realised my calling is sales. If I could sell to my dad for a set of golf clubs on 1 O-level, man, I've got to get into this sales lark. I make joke. So that didn't go down too well. Yeah. In fact, that changed quite a few things in life. But we won't go there, so enough of that. But you've had your successes and your failures in life. We all experience breakdown of relationships, whether it's boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever it is. More serious, you get into your engagements and marriage and things like this. Or your family situation, you can have a family breakup, a family feud, over the silliest of things, isn't it? The family feuds, the silliest of things. Isn't that one thing I detest? I don't like money. I like spending money, but I don't like it. And I always find it's ever so hard to get. But like with a family feud, somebody dies in the family, and the next minute they are all like buzzards. Suddenly you haven't seen people, old Uncle Henry. Who is Uncle Henry? And suddenly they're all over the shop. They're coming there. Well, who's going to have this vase? Who's going to have this cassette recorder? They all want them. I didn't get this, They start having family feuds over there. They're picking his bones, man. And he's still warm. I tell you, that's what it's like with some of these family situations. I can't stand it. I hate it. And it's just detestable with some families how people fall out and then suddenly, fall out of the smallest thing, then somebody dies in the family and they're just all there. Terrible it is. But breakdown of relationships, very difficult, isn't it? You know, how do you get through that? You love somebody, and then suddenly something goes wrong in life, and then you split. It's terrible. It's got to be one of the worst feelings, where you split up from somebody that you've really loved, you've thrown everything in together, and then suddenly there's something gone wrong, and then you start parting your ways. It's heartbreaking. It's so sad that you just both can't get on your hands and knees before the Lord and just resolve the thing. Look, I've failed you, I've messed up, I'm so sorry. Let's just let's put it aside. I'll do everything I can never to do anything like this again. Sort it out and get back together. You've got to help me. I really need you. And that's when you start hitting the skids. You start getting really lonely and isolated. You get introvert. You start holding things back. You don't open up. If you're not going to be open and talk in a relationship, listen, you'll be very fortunate if you survive. Be open with one another. Just talk about everything. Get it all in the open. Very difficult experiencing breakdown of relationships, and of course we all do. So you have family problems. We all have to make choices, good and bad, and we've all made good choices, but we've all made bad choices, I'm sure. We have to experience, we're all in the same boat with this, we have to experience responsibility and independence. It was only last week I realised, I think I'm classed as a man now at 42. No. But you've got to have that, there's a lot of responsibility that you have to take on, and independence, and you're not used to it when you're in that family environment where you don't have to worry about who's going to bring your food in, because your mum and dad set the food before you, and the cheeky kids, giving it some, I had this yesterday, clip round the ear, mate, if you say that again. And suddenly you're on your own, you've got to go get your food, you've got to pay for your own food, it's just a big responsibility, you've got to get out there, earn your keep. And we all have to go through that. It's a big learning curve, I remember getting your first job. You go for your first interview, you're sitting there. You feel about that small, and you feel like the bloke's like Goliath, and you're sitting there in this interview and you're sweating. You've got to always wear a jumper or a jacket because you have you're sweating, and you think, he asked you a question, so why should we give you the job? And things like that. Well, I don't know. You just give me the job. You're panicking. We're going to give you. I remember going for one job, and they gave you this test paper. I hate tests. I just had my experience with the GCSEs and O-levels, and they give you this test, and you have to go sit there. And I could tell I was going to fail from the start. And there's all these different people doing this test. So you go there and you're sitting in this room, and they're all doing their thing. And I look at the paper, and I'm thinking, I thought it was English. Looking at it, looks like Greek or something. And I said to the woman, is there any chance I could have a calculator? There's some maths things. And I remember her saying to me, I don't think you will need a calculator for the test. And that's it. I knew it was downhill from then on, Okay, yeah. I didn't get the job. And you have to go through that, all the stuff. And today it's even worse on some of the interviews, They want to know everything, and they ask you psychological questions. What would you do if you went out of this room and saw yourself coming back? And things like that, and what's all that about? I went down to a big company, had an interview in London, sat there in this big boardroom, and they even told me the name of the interview. We're going to interview in this certain style. It's a psychological, we're going to ask you questions that are very random and off base, and depending on your answers, and they were asking me stuff, and after the second one, that was it. We are not, whatever colour sky is in their world, I do not know. And I thought, I ain't going anymore down this road. And I just blew myself out. So I was just having a little bit of a game with them then. They were asking me questions, and I was giving them the random of answers, thinking, I don't even want this job. And you've got to go through all that stuff. Horrible. But we all have to go through it. Security, insecurity, we've all had to go through that. Temptations, you're tempted to do wrong things. We all get tempted. My temptation and your temptation may be totally different. Temptation to sin. Again, we'll come through to the scriptural point of view now, a bit later, But the temptations to do things wrong. Your Achilles heel, I'll leave it. Your Achilles heel, is different to mine. And Satan knows. And he'll throw everything at you to get you away from God, away from the Word, and to sin. So all your temptations are different We all have the same kind of things, but yours may be different to mine. You need to remember that. We're all in the same boat, but we're not all the same in regard to being tempted. So what your weak, if it was alcohol or drugs or whatever your past is, and Satan knows he'll try and get you, he'll try and tempt you in that again. So be careful. Like I said before, if the devil can't discourage you, he will encourage you. He'll encourage you. So you have to watch for things like that. We've talked about money problems. We all see things we don't like. Yes, we do. I don't want to see half the stuff I see today. And going downtown yesterday, we sat down and had a coffee yesterday downtown, was it? I won't even go there, but I didn't want to see what I did. Just blatant things walking past you, things, whatever they were. And I don't want to see this kind of stuff. And it's just, if you've got a television, you see stuff you shouldn't see. And if you've got, even the billboards around cities and things, all this stuff you don't want to see. I don't want to see the poverty, it's so sad what some people go, you don't want to see, you wish everything was better, but it's not. And so we've got to experience some things to get the gist of things. I understand that to get behind and help these folks. But there's a lot of stuff out there you don't want to see, that you're forced to see. And the same at schools. In school, children's books. I don't want, if we had children, I wouldn't want our children to see some of the stuff that's in the kids' books today. We all have to experience change. Again, you could talk about all these different things for a long time and bring the scriptures into it, but I'm just giving a little bit of an overview. Change. We all have to experience change. Now, I'm not very good at change. I like to get my set routines. Well, I say set routine. I'm very, flexible in that sense, but I like to, certain things I don't like to see change in. And things do come to the end of an era, we said. And you have to let things go. But change can be for the good, I understand that. It's the same old thing, I don't like change. Oh, but it's for the best. I always say, yeah. I've heard that a million times. It's never, after you've changed, then maybe, okay, it was for the best. But for the majority of things, I don't think it is for the best. But it can be for those that think change is just good all the time. But we have to allow things we have to let go of things. That's difficult at times. We have to let go. You have to move on. And, we've all had to do that in our lives. You didn't want to change, you didn't want something to move on, but you had to let it go. And it can be for the best. We've certainly seen things in our lives where we have had to make changes, and it's been for the best. We get hurt and we hurt others. I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to be hurt, but it happens. It does happen. We've talked about loneliness a little bit. We said about friendships, they come and go. That's why people join clubs and that, because they want friends. People get on our nerves, but you need people. We get on each other's nerves, I'm sure, but you need people. Even in churches, you think everybody's loving and caring. You can jostle and get on people's nerves, just the way you are, the mannerisms. You can be just annoying. Didn't mean to look at anybody then. We annoy each other of the silliest of little things, and it can become a real big thing. A small thing can become a big thing, and in the end, you can have a breakup over it. And you can, a relationship can break down because of this small thing that you just can't handle, it seems. You think about that, Maybe I've said about friends come and go and the annoying, and straight away somebody comes to mind. Yeah, well, it did happen. But that's why people join clubs and they want to mix in with others. And it's funny, you get people who just want to express their opinions, just give what they want to talk about. They're not interested in everybody else, but they want to tell you. They're forcing themselves upon you, and that person they're forcing themselves upon wants to force themselves upon you. And how can you? Where do you have the friendship there? It's give and take. It's about listening skills as well. Are you a good listener? I wonder. We all do things we don't want to. Yeah, we've just touched on that. We said about exams. We all experience the unknown. You and I don't know what this week will bring. where we're going. You have to get involved with things that you just don't know. You don't know what you're letting yourself in for. We all experience that at times. We all learn, or not for some of us. We all learn. And life is a learning curve. Every day we should be learning. Should be learning from the scriptures every day, of course. But what are you doing with that knowledge? Applying it to wisdom, What are you doing with what you learn? We all experience unfairness. Perhaps we get treated unfairly. Perhaps we treat other people unfairly. You've got to think about that. You want to change to be more like the Lord. But are we? Or do we even want to be? We all get deceived. We've all been deceived. Haven't we? Perhaps we deceive others as well. Deception's everywhere. We all break promises. You promise to be somewhere at a specific time, you turn up late. You break your promise over the small things. And if you do the small things, you do the big things. Keep your word. We all experience dissatisfaction and discontentment. We get discontented at times. We're not satisfied. We want more all the time. It's a great verse in Philippians, isn't there? Turn to Philippians. For it... where is it? Philippians 4 verse 11. Not that I speak in respect of want, for I have learned in whatsoever state I am therewith to be content. I know both how to be abased, and I know how to abound. Everywhere and in all things I am instructed both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. I can do all things through Christ which strengtheneth me. Be content. At times we all follow the crowd, the majority. Rather than standing up and doing what we should be doing, we just go with the peer pressures on us, and we crumble and we just go with the crowd rather than taking a stand of what is right, what we should be doing. We all give up at times. I remember putting this in the ministry years. Ministry years, what was it? Issue 3, page 3. The life of Abraham Lincoln. I love this, and I've read it to you before, but I love this. The life of Abraham Lincoln. I do the very best I know, how, the very best I can, and I mean to keep doing so. Abraham Lincoln's life is the best example of his own words. Consider the chronology of his career. In 1831 he failed in business. In 1832 he was defeated for legislature. 1833 again he failed in business. 1834 he was elected for legislature. I think I'm pronouncing that right. In 1835 his sweetheart died. In 1836 he had a nervous breakdown. In 1838 he was defeated for Speaker. In 1840 he was defeated for Elector. In 1843 he was defeated for Congress. By this time you would think he'd have given up. In 1846 he was elected to Congress. In 1848 he was defeated for Congress. In 1855 he was defeated for Senate. In 1856 he was defeated for Vice President. In 1858 he was defeated for Senate. In 1860 he was elected President of the United States of America. Never give up. Man alive, he went through everything. Failed in business, his sweetheart died, defeated in every area of his life, and he was elected President of the United States of America. Never give up. Keep fighting. We all have to deal with pride. Pride deserves its own thing because that's the original sin. And we all have to deal with that in our lives. That's a massive, massive problem for everybody. I tell you that now. Pride. It all stems to pride. All your problems, it seems. We all make mistakes. We all make wrong choices. We all suffer selfishness. Or experience selfishness. We all doubt at times. We all get embarrassed. What's your most embarrassing moment? I wonder. We all suffer highs and lows, and we all have to go through pain. That's just a few of the things. Man, like we could talk, for another 40 minutes on that. But just bringing this scripturally, let's just for a moment, all these things. This is life. This is what you and I are going through. Yeah, this is what we all go through in the same boat, struggling through life, trying to make ends meet, trying to get through this life. We don't, although it's the most famous psalm, of course, Psalm 23, we don't read it a lot out loud. We leave that to the Church of England. But let's turn to Psalm 23, because it is an amazing psalm, beautiful psalm, and just wonderful words. In life, in all that, what we've just gone through, those experiences, all that we've just talked about, where does God fit in to it all in your life? Where does he fit in? The Lord is my shepherd. Can you say that this morning? Is he your shepherd? The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. See, when you have the Lord, you don't want anything else. You talk about satisfaction. You'll find satisfaction. You'll find everything. Everything that's good about the Lord is fantastic. You're just in the Lord. You're close to the Lord. He loves you. You're a Christian. And when you really know the Lord, everything else, all this falls by the wayside. Don't get me wrong, it's important. But when you know the Lord is your shepherd, and you're a Christian, everything else falls into its place. Get your priorities right. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. Isn't that beautiful? He gives you rest. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. All those things he gives you. He gives you that peace, that tranquility. He leads you to the still waters. He looks after you. He loves you. He feeds you. He clothes you. He gives you shelter. He gives you drink. He gives you everything. Everything in life that's any good. Every gift and every perfect gift comes from heaven above, we read in the book of James. Everything good in your life has come from the Lord. And then verse 4. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. There's another psalm that says he will lead us even unto death. He will lead you through death. So there's no need to fear if you're a Christian. There's no need to fear. If you're not a Christian, you ought to be terrified. Because hell is a reality. Heaven is reality. Hell is a reality. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. He protects you and looks after you. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. That's a psalm you ought to read, and read again, and break it down, and get your own thoughts. Think about it. Each verse, each word, just break it down and get your thought. Ask the Lord to speak to you through this psalm. Just do it. Spend an hour just looking at that psalm. You'll get some real good stuff out of it. And again, we could do that today, but time has gone. But I want to just give you just a couple of other passages of Scripture. But listen, take my word and get into that psalm and just break it down. Spend a bit of time in it and just dwell with the Lord on those verses. With all this going on, you wonder how often people do think about life after death, or where we've come from, where we're going to. You wonder about people, whether they really do seek, for the meaning of life, or are they just existing with no purpose, no goal, no aim, just trying to stay alive? Do you really think about the meaning of life? Turn to Romans chapter 12. Romans chapter 12 is a very practical chapter. And let's just read this a second. Again, just talks about certain things in life, as a Christian, what we should be like. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice. What have you sacrificed? Holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. For I say through the grace given unto me, to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly according as God hath dealt to every man the measure of faith. For as we have many members in one body, and all members have not the same office, so we being many are one body in Christ, and every one members one of another. Having then gifts differing according to the grace that is given to us, whether prophecy, let us prophesy according to the proportion of faith, or ministry, let us wait on our ministering. Or he that teacheth on teaching, or he that exhorteth on exhortation. He that giveth, let him do it with simplicity. He that ruleth with diligence. He that showeth mercy with cheerfulness. Let love be without dissimulation, abhor that which is evil, cleave to that which is good. Be kindly affectioned one to another with brotherly love, in honour preferring one another. Isn't this good advice? Not slothful in business, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord. That's what you're called to do, serve the Lord. Rejoicing in hope. We've got the blessed hope to look forward to. Patient in tribulation, whatever you're going through. Continuing instant in prayer. Pray without ceasing, the Bible says. Distributing to the necessity of saints, given to hospitality. I wonder how many Christians act on that verse. Very few. Bless them which persecute you. Bless and curse not. Rejoice with them that do rejoice. And weep with them that weep. Be of the same mind, one toward another. Mind not high things, but condescend to men of low estate. Do you? Condescend to men of low estate. Mind not high things. Very, very quickly, I gave a little story. I read it yesterday about there was a church of 10,000 people, and an old tramp walked in, and smelly and sweaty and old clothes, and he's asking for some change, and nobody spoke to him. I think he said that about 3 people. I think he said about 3 people out of the 10,000 people that was in that church even said hello to him. Nobody would give him money for food. He went and sat at the front of the church, and the ushers moved him to the back and said, "Look, sit at the back, please." And it was the day of the ordination of their new pastor in this 10,000 congregation church. And the elder got up at the front of the church. Nobody wanted to sit next to this tramp. He was sitting isolated at the back. And the elder of the church got up, and he said, "We'd like to introduce you to our new pastor of whatever church it was. We'd like to welcome him to the platform now." And so they all started clapping, and they're looking around, nobody moved. And then suddenly the tramp got up, and he walked to the front of the church, and he got on the platform, and he took the mic. He was the new pastor of the church. Isn't that powerful? The elders were in on it. He was in on it, obviously. And he dismissed, after he gave a little talk, I think he dismissed the meeting and said, "Don't play at Christianity. Christianity should be real. You should all be living for the Lord, serving the Lord. That's what it should be all about." Every person at church, some people were crying, it went dead silent, it hit them for 6. I think it was a very, very powerful thing to do. To him that knoweth to do good, and doeth it not, to him it is sin. If you know to do good, you should be doing good, and you don't do it, it's a sin. If somebody needs help and you bypass them thinking somebody else will do it, that's a sin. Serving the Lord. Be of the same mind, one toward another. Mind not high things, but condescend to men of low estate. Be not wise in your own conceits. Recompense to no man evil for evil. Provide things honest in the sight of all men. If it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. Dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place unto wrath, for it is written, "Vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord." Therefore if thine enemy hunger, feed him. If he thirst, give him drink. For in so doing thou shalt heap coals of fire on his head. Be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good. We haven't got time to go into the other passages, but you ought to look at the last days in regard to 2 Timothy 3 and 2 Timothy 4, verse 1 to 8. And have a read through those 2 chapters. This has just been a little talk, I would say, on just life. We're going through the same things, folks. We're all in the same boat. We're all trying to do something with our lives, to make the best of what we have. But as Christians, we shouldn't be putting ourselves first. We should be putting the Lord first, others, and then ourselves. We should be living out our Christianity. Too many intellectual, clever Christians we have today that have no heart. They're just interested in the cold facts of doctrines. They like to debate, and they're not doing much with their lives, being honest. They're wasting their time. They're not really living out their Christianity throughout their lives in reaching the lost and ministering to other people. I have to deal with all kinds of Christians, from the clever little Calvinist, amillennial Christians who think they're God's gift to theology, to the Christians around the world who have nothing, who write to us begging for us to send them a Bible. You've got one life. It will soon be past. Only what's done for Christ will last. Make the most out of every second of every day, because the rapture is just around the corner. Let us pray.